Good morning, everyone. My name is Anton Eckert. If you don't know me, I am the Chief Industry Development Officer for Travel Nevada, and I'm here to walk you through our webinar for the fiscal year 2023 Cycle 2 grants. Let me share my computer for you. I am, the rest of my team is out this morning, so I'm going to do this on my own. If you have questions, please feel free to jump in, unmute, and then jump in. I am going to have a hard time kind of watching the chat room or the hand raising while I go through this. Let me try to minimize these images as well. All right. All right. So welcome, everyone. This meeting is really to kind of go through the new grant cycle and also give you some information on our new platform. So I'll talk a little bit about how we've been reimagining the grant program for rural marketing, some of an overview for those of you who have not applied for a grant before, and some updates that we've had for Cycle 2 for those who have been applying in the past. We have application forms and materials that have been updated. We'll start to list more marketing opportunities. I'll have we'll walk you through the submittable platform, which is our new platform. We have time for questions. We'll go through questions on the application itself, and then give you a little bit of the timeline and Q&A in the end for everyone to ask. But again, feel free to jump in if you have any questions you want to ask. So when I first started, really wanted to take a look at how we can reimagine the rural grants. We have been providing these grants for many years, and there was definitely some areas that we could improve. In the first phase of fiscal year 23 cycle 1, we updated the application, some of the questions on there, evaluation forms. We really try to encourage more of a layered application where, if you have multimedia promoting your destination or your event or another program you have, showing us that you are looking at it from a layered approach was a really big piece of that. We'll get into that in a bit. We tested a rubric. It didn't work as well as we wanted to, so we had to kind of re-look at that again. And we do have a new version. It's not posted on the site yet, but we will be posting it. We just want to do one more test for that. And it is really more of an internal form that we will use to kind of evaluate all the applications and really be more, systematic about how we kind of distribute and award the funds. In the past, it was just one person who was reviewing the grants, and I want to make sure we get different perspectives. So we expanded our internal review of that team that's going to review all the grants, including marketing and research and even some executives. So on the executive team, so we have about 6 people now. I have since hired Robert Graff and Abby Ortiz, who are our industry relations specialists. They will also be reviewing the grants as well. In the last cycle, we gave the first cycle we gave away $760,000, which is part of our EDA funds that we had that we needed to use up, and that was went to 39 organizations with in 69 different awards. So some people had multiple awards because they had multiple applications. So in this cycle 2, we have $766,000, a little over that for available funds. We're launched the new online grant platform. There will be 1 application per organization. So this is key because, as I said in the last cycle, we really were trying to get people to submit 1 application that showed the myriad of programs that they wanted to do around it and look at their grant holistically. So that is a big change for this one. We have updated the guidelines, and I'll go a little bit through that. And I mentioned the rubric. We're starting to list more program opportunities, so you have this ahead of time. And just a note on this next cycle, what we're going to do is start to report on actuals. So I know many of you have applied in the past. Some of you submitted estimates because you just simply wouldn't have known the evaluation of some of your stuff, and that's okay. Now that we're kind of past fiscal year 22 now, a couple of months, Hopefully those actuals have come in and we'll go back and take a look at that. We'd like to have a better way to report a lot of the work that all of you are doing through the program. And then the same thing for cycle 1. This is moving forward. Phase 3 of our Reimagine grants is going to be fiscal year 2024. We are only going to have one grant cycle. I want to mention this because I've mentioned it before, but some people may have not have caught that, but it will be one grant cycle. And the process here is really to allow you to plan ahead and be able to plan your budgets in the fiscal year and that you're working with. I struggled personally when I first started. I didn't understand how people could kind of do 2 cycles and not knowing what they may or may not get in terms of funding. So I think that this will help. We will then distribute the 1.4 million funds that we have in total. We're going to revise the guidelines even more. Some updates for that will be coming. We're also going to provide work plan templates. This is where we think it will help with evaluation. For example, I'm working with research to kind of figure out how can we create some sort of worksheet where you could submit your information that would then calculate economic impact. I think that was the biggest challenge, primarily because economic impact is hard to measure. I know from some of you, and you know, I felt it was unfair to ask you to be calculating it if you were having, you know, if you didn't have the information. And so if there's ways that we can help with that, we will look at that. The other thing we're looking at is potentially a sliding scale for the match. So you know, it's always been 50%. I know there's some smaller destinations who sometimes struggle to make the match, and maybe some organizations who don't apply because they can't make the match. In the last cycle, we did ask you what your budget size was and what your staff size was, and we're going to take a look at that and try to figure out a way to allow a sliding scale. So if you're a small organization that's purely volunteer with very little, very few volunteers, it may not be a 50% match, it could be a little bit less. So you'll hear more about that coming. And because it is one cycle, we do want to create an opportunity to have mid-year check-ins, make sure you're spending as needed. And if not, then we can reevaluate or look at how to shift that. We recognize that, you know, marketing programs do need to be flexible, and we want to be flexible. So, you know, not having to open another cycle also opens up another more time for our team to help you with those opportunities. And just for your information, the grants will open in March and April next year. We will have by May, we will evaluate all of that, and it'll go in front of the board, the commission on the June meeting in 2023, so that you can start planning for 2024. Any questions so far? All right. So for those of you who have not applied for a marketing grant before, just want to give you a quick summary of that. So qualifying applicants really are for, the grants are for nonprofit organizations, if you're local, regional, or tribal, subdivisions of the state like territory level, fair and recreation boards, primarily communities under populations of 100,000. That is in our grant guidelines. You can use the funding for marketing and advertising campaigns. If you have events, for attractions, destinations, again, we're a nonprofit, educational conferences and workshops, and any related research. All this information is also on the grant guidelines. Priorities are given for projects that generate overnight stays, and that is what we're trying to do, is bring in new money from outside of the area. We certainly want to promote rural Nevada. We're looking for bigger projects that are multi-jurisdictional and collaborative. So if you have that, that's great. Bonus points for that. And that the projects that have international, national, or regional impact that generate non-local visitors and attendees. Again, just trying to help with the economic impact as it relates to bringing new funds from outside. For this cycle, we still will have the 50% match. That can be cash or in kind, and in kind will be volunteer hours. And territories are excluded from that. So this will likely change the next cycle in 2024. So just a quick, for those of you who have done these grants before, some updates to the guidelines I wanted to highlight. As I mentioned, we have one application per organization. Some of the other evaluations we're considering as part of the rubric is, any brand or pillar alignment with Travel Nevada. Really seeing if you have used what you've learned in past grants or past opportunities by looking at your marketing data and campaign metrics to kind of inform your next decisions. I had a lot of comments around when the CRF funding came out. There was the surge of money and everyone was out there trying to just do everything. I feel that was your opportunity to test. And if you have learned something from that opportunity and decide to apply it for another grant, that's an ideal time to kind of tell us what you learned and why you want to continue it, or why you want to optimize and move on with other things. I mean, it's really more, marketing isn't shouldn't be seen in a silo, and certainly with an appointed time. It requires over time, it really requires work to continue to optimize and work and make sure that you're doing what you need to move the needle on that. So any type of learnings you have from past marketing programs you did that you've optimized and wanted to highlight as part of your application would be really great to add to. Collaboration with the community, and also the fact that we're looking for this long-term self-sufficiency, that as you move forward you have other ways to kind of fund that. We look at that too. Two things that are not no longer going to be eligible for reimbursement is web maintenance. Websites, back in the day was everybody had to have a website, and now that you do, that should be part of your operating expenses. It should not be something that a grant should pay for to maintain, because as I said, we're looking for self-sufficiency as we move forward. Retainer fees are another area as we went through the last cycle. There are companies who hire agencies to do their advertising. We don't even pay as Travel Nevada. We don't pay retainer fees either. So we were not going to be able to pay those. Certainly take a look at how you're submitting your grants and making sure that that is not included in the cost for reimbursement. If you have any questions on that, I'm happy to talk about that with you individually. The other thing we recognized in the last cycle is that we needed to define deadlines for some of the materials. The grant agreements, for example, we weren't getting to the very end. Reimbursement requests weren't submitted until the very end, until June. Most people just threw in June as the final date, as their campaigns were ending. In some cases, that wasn't it. They were actually ending earlier, and that just created a huge backlog when it came time to finalize the grant program and close out the year. So if you have received a grant in the past, an agreement, you would have seen that there was a deadline to get that into us. It was the end of last month. So we gave you 30 days for that. Reimbursement request, the same thing. If your program ends before June, you need to get us those grant reimbursements so that we can process them appropriately. It was too much of an effort to try to do all of it at the last minute, and really didn't see the sense for it. So there is also a 30-day reimbursement for requests for 30 days after your program has ended. So make sure that you put in the correct dates, and we will be checking. So updated forms and materials is on our website. I'll get to that in a bit. We have guidelines that we've updated as of and approved at the last commission meeting on September 9th. We've revised the reimbursement request form. It's just a small little addition for some numbers that we needed. It was all in one form. We were having multiple forms to have to go to find information. So that is on there. And I think it's really just adding your what your total was that you requested and what your match is. Nothing big. The travel reimbursement guidelines and expense claim form are also on the site. And the reason why I'm mentioning it here is because in the last cycle, we got several people who were sending us expense claim forms from, I don't know when. I didn't even recognize them. There is a form on the site that you can use to do your expense claim if you did travel as part of your grant application. And there are guidelines on there in terms of the right number, right calculations to use based on mileage. It is based on our own travel expense guidelines that we have to follow with the state. So it is the same rules that you have to follow if you are applying for a grant. Certificate of volunteer hours. This, if you're doing, you can't do a cash match and you are going to use volunteer hours as part of your match. We did raise that number. It was $20 in the past. It's over that now. It's a little bit more than that. So the value of the volunteer hours has gone up, and that's the only change on that form. But please do use that form to track your volunteer hours if you use that in kind. The grant rubric I mentioned earlier, we'll have that posted. It's not posted. That's why I put it in italic here. We'll have that posted, and this is really for your reference, so you know how we're evaluating these grants as they come through. In addition to that, you'll find our logos and assets as well as our brand guidelines if you need some help with that in terms of meeting the grant guidelines, and how to send assets to Travel Nevada. In that same link, we're going to post marketing opportunities. Right now it's a little wonky. Everything just looks like one list, but trying to figure out how to make that happen so that you have those forms that you on the previous page in one section and then this on the next section. But in the meantime, it all looks like it's all bundled together. So what I have here is the Nevada Magazine and Visitors Guide. This will be the last cycle to leverage grants for this, for ads for this. We had in the last, in cycle one, we're only allowing that through December. And that was primarily because we weren't sure when the Nevada Magazine was going to roll under Travel Nevada. For those of you who don't know, that has been in the process for the past almost a year, I believe now, and should be completed by July 1st. So the reason why the grants no longer will be awarded to ads for ads in the Magazine and Visitors Guide is because once the magazine rolls under Travel Nevada, it is unethical to actually pay ourselves. So this will be the last cycle, and it will be based on the material deadlines. And I believe for the fall 2023 magazine and guide, the deadline is June. And if you're interested in doing a grant for that we will accept for the fall guide, because the materials are, and probably and the invoices are probably due in June, and that is within our current cycle for these grants. So that's just for you to know. And then we have a travel trade calendar, particularly for for the second half of the year. We have a Canada mission that will happen in the spring. More details will be coming, and we would definitely post some information on that for you, as well as some of the receptive events we'll be conducting in the next half of the year if you're interested in participating. There is an Expedia Spring Co-op that will post, and that is will also be on the site. It's not there right now, but it will be. And that we will need a minimum number of participants to be for us to subsidize that co-op. So if that's something you're interested in, please let us know early on, and certainly before the deadline, so that we can make that happen. There's also research opportunity. We are working with Zartigo right now. That is, there's more information on that. I don't want to get too much into that, but that will be posted as soon as that's ready. And then if some of you are interested in strategic planning resources, sorry, did it just cut out?
Yeah, you're froze, Anton, but you're back on now.
Oh, I apologize.
Oh, it's no problem. I think the recording probably did it.
Okay, so where did I stop? So I know where to go back to.
Anton, it did say that the recording stopped, so I don't know if you have to restart it or not.
Yeah, you were winding up Nevada Magazine, Anton.
Okay, 1 second. Let me try to restart. I apologize, everyone. Where's my?
Does show a little red dot flashing.
Yeah, I see that.
So it must be recording. I think I heard it say it was recording. All right, back to the program. So magazines.
That's where we were.
Okay.
Here we go.
So you did hear the last site, this will be the last cycle to leverage the grants. We have a travel trade calendar posted. It has all of the events that we're going to be attending, but I did want to highlight the Canada mission in the spring, and we'll have some receptive events as well. We'll have more details on that posted on the site a little bit later, but you do have the 2-year calendar. So again, this gives you an opportunity to look out for the next, even the next cycle, if you're looking at planning ahead. We have Expedia will have a spring co-op. This is one we typically subsidize, and we will need a minimum number of participants. So if you have, if you're interested in that, definitely apply for the grant and let us know right away. We will have a research opportunity as well. We're working with Zartico currently. I don't want to get too much into that, but we will, I'll have that posted probably within the next week, so that if you're interested in doing additional research related to your destination or your organization, you can look at that. And then lastly, some of you may be interested in doing some strategic planning as part of your territory, destination, or organization. I do have a list of those resources. We can provide those on request.
And Anton, can we ask some questions?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. The first question I have, when you mentioned about the 30-day reimbursement, like after something is completed, is that per component? So if we have 3 or 4 components in the
Good question.
request, do you want us within 30 days, like if we complete one, get you a reimbursement for that particular one? And then as we complete the next element of, because we submitted just the one grant, right? So we have everything within. Is that how you kind of want us to do that?
Well, in the past, we have done partial payments, and and this is somewhat like a partial payment. So yes, if you do have, say you did a TV campaign that was January and February, and you did a print from March and April, yes, if the TV is done, submit the TV step. If the print is done, as that finishes, you submit that, just so that we are not we're not stuck with all these invoices that we have to process. So it just look like it has in the past as an early submission for paying those bills. As far as the evaluation, obviously, if you may not have that information right away, certainly you can do the evaluation by June. If your advertising, it goes beyond June and you don't know the data, we will still try to collect that 3 or 4 months later, just so that we have the final numbers.
Okay, yeah, and the reason I was asking that too is that in the past, sometimes, we would have things that ended during the year, but we oftentimes cannot get actual results within 30 days. So we were waiting in order to have the actuals where possible, instead of giving projections or estimates, so I just wanted to know if it's within 30, or you guys are okay with the understanding that we might have projected numbers or estimated numbers, and then we can provide you with those actuals, maybe it's 90 days after the campaign runs or whatever.
Yes, and you'll see in the application as we go through it that we do ask for estimates.
Okay.
The idea here is that we want to look at your estimates versus your actuals, and we're not here to say that you're a bad guesser, because we do know some of the stuff is not easy to estimate. What we want to do is be able to take that information, and maybe your estimate is actually your goal, and that's really where you want to get to. And then we can work with you individually and figure out how can we get you to that next level, and how can you optimize your plan to get to that level. So it's really, again, not so that we're testing anybody on how good of a guesser they are. We do need to roll up this data as part of our reporting at the commission and for legislators. So that is just how we're trying to get the data, because right now it's kind of very disparate, and we've kind of outlined that in the application itself.
Question.
Anton, it's Earl in Southern Nevada. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I just want to follow up on that and what David brought up. If we're submitting a grant, applying for an event, sales mission, whatever we want to call it, a fam trip, and we do provide you with an estimate in the application. In this crazy time we live in, inflation 8 to 9%, and let's say we're planning for an event next May, applying right now, should we build in 8 to 9% in our estimate? Because it's my understanding that when we go for final reimbursement, it's going to be based on what we submit in the grant application. Am I following you correctly on that one?
Yes, I mean, we have what we have. We don't have any more money beyond what I listed before. I do feel like some people try to pad and cushion, and if you need to do that, certainly do. And this is where, now that Abby and Robert are on the team, reach out to them if you feel like it's going to be over, it's going to be under, and ways that we can look at how to rejigger kind of the costs and if we need to spread that. I have to tell you that in the last cycle, because I was by myself primarily, and Abby had just started, and Robert, there was a lot of, last minute trying to figure out, who was spending what. We had this old system that didn't give me an immediate information on where we were. So it was a very manual process. This new platform will allow it to be more dynamic and certainly give us up-to-date information. So as you're paying these bills, we can see as we're going along where the spend is. We are not unreasonable people. We recognize things change all the time. We have to be flexible, and the best way is just to be in communication with us, and making sure that if you have money that you see and you need to make some changes or whatever that case may be. But we have only what we have. It's 766,000. We don't have any more money. And so we do try to spread that out as best we can. But I know things happen. So yes, you can just communicate those changes that you may need to make during the course of the program.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
We have a gallery in Walker Lake, Nevada, and I was wondering if the grants are focused on nonprofit businesses only.
The guidelines do refer to the fact that they have to be nonprofit. However, you could be working with your territory or with an organization that is a nonprofit in your community to help you with that. So if they wanted to, for example, promote the plethora of opportunities and products they have in the destination, and one that happens to be one of yours and you're a for-profit, they can still do that through their grant. We just could not we could not work with you. You would not qualify for the grant.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, where are you calling from?
Walker Lake, Nevada.
Okay, yeah. Do you know who your territory person is?
No, but I can find out.
Mary Noel, I know.
Oh, okay, Mary.
It would
thank
be,
you.
it might work through West Walker Lake Advisory Board or for tourism with Kyle Isom.
Okay,
Yeah.
Mary.
So, yeah, talk to them if you're a for-profit and see how they can help promote you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Mhm. Any other questions?
Anton, it's Meg
Hi, Meg.
from Laughlin. So I'm still a grant novice, and I appreciate this presentation so much. It's really helping me a lot understand what our rural communities are going through. And I just want to have some clarification, because in looking at past grant awards, and I know this is a new process. For instance, a chamber, tourism board, community could apply for put in multiple applications. So maybe they wanted a collateral piece development and distribution application. And then they also had another application that might be for signage, or billboards somewhere. And those were separate applications. Am I understanding that they're only allowed to submit one for this cycle?
Yes, it is one application with those multiple media outlets. So I will show you that in a minute, and how that all works in the system.
Okay, perfect. And then my other question is, and I don't know if we can actually answer this or not. So in submitting an application, and say it does have, it's one application, it's got multiple components to it, is are you expecting it to be kind of a pass-fail system where the whole, and I know there's only so much money available, that the whole grant is denied? Or would it be where you'd say, you know, we applied for $25,000, we can't, and there's 25,000 match, but there's components to it, we can fund 5,000 of it? Is that still?
That is still happening. There is, and I'm not sure if he made the change, but there is an opportunity at the end to prioritize which is the one that you value the most. I mean, in terms of how you're looking at, if you do say outdoor, you have a TV campaign, a print campaign, and you say the outdoor is the most important, you can rank them so that you can actually, it's not I think the ranking is based on paid advertising, which we'll get through the travel trade. There's PR, there's another one. I'll go through all that, but yes, there is an opportunity to kind of rank them within one application. So you are submitting one application in its totality with all of your different medium that you want to try. And then at the bottom, you would then rank the ones you want. So if we get to the point where we don't, obviously we may not be able to fund the entire grant, we could then take a look at your priorities and fund it according to that.
Thank you. And so they could be, the components could be unrelated. So say if you were going after advertising for a special event, that might be unrelated to destination advertising, you know, overall. So-
Absolutely.
It would just be
Okay.
me.
And the way that, with the way the
period. I
grant,
am currently on another Zoom, but I could hop off.
someone,
Unmute
Heather,
you.
can you mute, please? Thank you. If there is a way to do that in the grants and in the system. So I'll show you all that. You did bring up a point I wanted to mention, Meg. We know that there are some organizations that have chambers and visitor centers and, you know, DMOs in there. And sometimes they're all doing the job of promoting tourism. We do give a preference to official tourism entities, you know, tourism authorities within those destinations. And so if there is for example, a welcome center and that is operating as a tourist for the visitors, but there's also a chamber, the priority would be given to the visitor center who applied for a grant versus the chamber, primarily because that is the designated authority in that town. In Boulder City, for example, you know, the chamber is the visitor center, that's fine. But when they're separated and they have two different entities also vying for grants, we will always look for the authority within the city to provide the grant to as the main point. And then we would hope that that chamber or other entity works with the visitor center or the DMO in that city to help promote them.
That's great to know. And I can tell you that Laughlin is a triple threat. Jackie has got all tourism angles covered, as Jill does in Boulder City.
Good to know.
I'm sorry, can we back up for just a second? Sorry, this is Sarah, Nevada Indian Commission. I'm going to ask this question. Having worked with the territories before, if you have one grant per territory, I mean, now you're going to have the different entities in the territories vying for the same grant for the grant dollars, right? As a territory organization, the territory can apply for grants. There is no match to those grants, and that is really the effort of the territory organization. Then you have the wider regional territory with all those other entities involved, like, you know, the other destinations, maybe other tribes, however that looks. They can apply for grants themselves. Those require a match that we talked about earlier. So it's two different ways to look at it. As Indian Territory, Sarah, you can apply for a grant at the territory level, but then those tribes can also apply for grants separately. Oh, okay, good. Thank you. I was going to say, because yeah, Pyramid Lake applies for them. Okay, thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
And go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Earl.
Thank you. I have two or three other short questions, Anton. Going back to Meg's comments, I think I understand better, you know, your position on collaborating with the community. Unfortunately, I'm not really sure who are the official tourism DMOs, entities in each community. I mean, I know Boulder City, I know Laughlin, obviously through Meg, but places like Mesquite in the past, we've always worked through the Chamber of Commerce there with Carol Colson, but I understand there may be other, there's no visitor center there anymore. That was closed years ago. So if we collaborate with the community for, let's say, a grant request, should we talk to you before we do that to ensure we're talking with the right people to collaborate? I'm a little confused on that one. I'm sorry.
Well, if you need context, we can certainly try to help you with that. Abby and
Okay.
Robert are really getting out into the communities and understand that. I do have to correct you on the Mesquite. There is a visitor center. It is run by the city, and the city uses volunteers to operate that. Now, that may mean that the volunteers are not, they're not able to staff it full time. In this instance, we do ask that the chamber work with the visitor center, and maybe they could be the staff. I don't know. I don't know what their plan is, but they have to work together, because in this case, in that situation, for example, if the city applied for a grant for the visitor center and the chamber also applied for a grant, our priority is going to go to the visitor center as the authority in that town.
Okay, got it. Got it. Okay. Do you have time for two more questions?
Yes, please.
Okay, going back to the web maintenance issue, I certainly understand the position on that. We've learned from errors in the past the importance of, having a webmaster in town and having somebody on the board that knows a bit about that. So, and we're capable of doing that on our own, like you'd like us to do. But if we wanted to introduce a new domain, dimension, portal, whatever you want to call it, on a website that wasn't related to maintenance, or maybe it is, and I'm not sure. For example, we have often talked, and I know you and I have had a discussion about selling members' products on the website. Would that be considered website maintenance and don't even bother asking, or would that be a separate entity?
Yeah, web maintenance is separate. That is you actually just running your website, having, making your own updates as you go along, making the serving that goes along with it. You have a service provider that should be covered as that's maintenance. If you are revamping your site and you're adding, for example, an e-commerce section, or you're doing a full rebrand, you can apply for those. It's just the fact that we should not be paying for keeping your website alive. That is something that should be part of your operating expenses. And for the territories, I was going to mention this a little bit later, but when the territories chair come out to help review the application, there's some feedback going on. If someone can mute. The territory chairs, when you come out to help us evaluate this grant, we will have a discussion on a strategy around the territories.
Okay. I have two more quick questions if I can.
Can we get David to
I'm
mute,
not
please?
sure who is causing this feedback. Everyone but Earl can put their sound on mute. Shelley, I see you're not on mute. If you can mute David Bowen. I think it's David Bowen. You have two.
Yeah, I'm telling him I'm trying to get off.
Wait, hold on. I think I can do it. There we go. Okay. Earl, what was your other question?
Okay. Pardon my ignorance on this. Could you, in 2 or 3 lines, explain again what the grant rubric is? I'm sorry, I'm a bit lost on that.
The rubric is just a way that we will evaluate the grants. So if there are certain qualifications, if let me go back to the slide here. So if you're, if part of the rubric says you look like you're gonna, it's generating overnight stays, then you would give you points for each of these qualifications that you have against that. So that is, as I said, I'll share that as soon as we're finished. We're still testing it, because last time we realized as we launched it, we were internally, we were looking at, there were some applications that
we would have, had we not had the rubric, probably funded, and others that we wouldn't have. And so we just needed to tweak that a little, but that is coming, and it'll make more sense when it's out, but it is really just putting a number to some of the qualifications that you have, some of the specifics of your grant, so that we can numerically give it a score and then decide how
gotcha.
much we can fund.
Okay, great. Last question. Robert and I have had much discussion on this, and we certainly are amenable to change and supporting our position. And the question is regarding things like sales missions, consumer shows. Certainly agree with you, Anton. The merit of consumer shows, we think also, that has been superseded by all the digital technology available to the consumer. So we certainly are not going to apply for those anymore. We're going to back out of that. Moving on to sales missions, I've gone over the schedule with Robert quite extensively, and the conclusion I think we reach, or I was trying to reach, is I want to ensure that the territory supplements your needs in your events, and yet do we still have the ability to have our own autonomy, let's say, to establish a sales mission? And if so, in doing that, we certainly, we wouldn't want to duplicate the efforts at Travel Nevada. For example, you have your sales mission events, and normally you cater to receptors, tour operators, things like that. But on our level, we're more inclined to market to the travel agent, media community, and some localized tourism professionals. So is it fair to assume that that's reasonable for us to continue applying for?
Earl, I can tell you that for territories, we do have programs, and if our programs are already covering what you intend to do, then we need to talk about that, because that's not really what, you shouldn't be replicating anything you do.
Exactly.
You should be leveraging what we have. The grants are never going to be, and the reason why we have we're trying to post more opportunities for marketing in terms of co-ops is because marketing takes a lot of money and a lot of time.
Absolutely.
We have $10 million that we spend every year trying to promote the state in its entirety. There will never be enough grant money for you to be able to do that level of promotion. Where you can, it's best to leverage what we're already doing. And whether it's a grant, a marketing, an Expedia co-op, for example, that I mentioned earlier, the research, we can supplement some of that. We can negotiate on our partners' behalf to get lower rates. That is all there. Now, if you decide that, and you know this, Earl, already, I've told you in the last year, we are no longer doing consumer shows. To us, there is no benefit for that. We would then just turn those over to you. There's no point in that. That's just more work for us. So I really feel that if that is what the territory wants to do, a consumer event, you're more than happy to apply for a grant for that. That's just not something we are going to do.
Yeah. Okay. I think I understand that better.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
I want to get to the grant itself, the new process. So before you register, what you will need, and this was required in the last grant system, it will be required in this one because it is new. You'll need your corporate ID, which is provided by the Nevada Secretary of State. So you have to apply for that. There's a link there. Please make sure that that is current. We found a couple of them that weren't current. We had to go back and make sure that that is there. You need a federal tax ID. Your taxpayer identification number is also will be required. And if you do get awarded, you eventually need to get on the Nevada ePro platform. That is how we process our invoices that you've requested for reimbursement. So those are three things you should have before you consider looking at this. Just a note about fiscal year 23, cycle one. Cycle one, we're kind of in this interim period. Cycle one will continue to live the old platform, and we will eventually migrate all that content over for the last 5 years. So that's one of the benefits of this new platform. Evaluations for cycle one should be submitted in the old platform. We will eventually roll that over when that's completed. And just for everyone to know, your old passwords will continue to work in cycle one. We can provide that for you if you've forgotten.
but you will need new logins and passwords in Submittable. If you forget those, you would then have to request that through Submittable. We would no longer have that, be able to resend you your passwords once you're signed up. All right, let's get to the good stuff. So Submittable has been used by the Nevada Arts Council. So if you have applied for a grant through them or worked with them, that is the same password and login you can use. If not, I'll show you how to set it up. There is a video that can help you with this if you don't if you're not following through on this this webinar. You can always use the link to the video, and there is an article also written by Submittable. Submittable will talk to you about the application itself. I mean, sorry, the starting your application and logging in and setting it up. And then I want to go through the application questions so you have a better idea of what we're doing. So let me share my other screen. First. Oh no, I have to do the other one. It wasn't all opening up because I was signed in two different places. It wasn't allowing me to sign up. It wasn't allowing me to share in one version. I had to do two. Okay, just to show you, this is a Nevada ePro site. There is a link this is where the link will take you to as it relates to signing up after if you get awarded, and you would just go in here and sign up. This link that I provided in the deck, this is the presentation that will kind of walk you through, and I'll just play a little bit of it. Matthew is our contact person. He'll walk you through in this video on how to get through there if you need some help later. On our website, you'll find all these links. So if you are this is travelnevada.biz, and if you go into rural programs, scroll down to this rural marketing grant section and learn more. Here's where you would find the link. So we have the link for today's Zoom, and we will post the recorded version here. This is the link to get into Submittable. The video I just showed you, that this is a link there, and there is an article around the setting it up if you still need some more help. This is all the forms and resources that I mentioned. It's kind of just thrown in here right now. I'm trying to figure out how to separate the forms versus the resources. But everything anything else we post will be here if you're looking for, like the Expedia co-op, for example, we'll post it here. So if you clicked on this link, it will take you to another page. Now I have to share a different page. 1 second. It would take you to here, and this is actually the internal. This is the back end. I could not find this because I already registered as a different person. But when you first get to that link, there is an eligibility form that you will fill out, and this is really just making sure that your organization is in the state of Nevada, because we don't fund anything outside of that. And it's just kind of a yes, no. Maybe I shouldn't show you, this is all the back end. And then select the answer that best describes your application. So you'll see something, are you territory? Are you a local government? Are you a nonprofit within the community? Are you a tribal entity? If you have none of the above, I think it asks you to answer that. And then here it is, are you nonprofit or tribal? It's just a yes, no. And then your 501c3 if you have it. You notice this does not have a red required, the dot that tells you it's required. So if you do have it, certainly post it. If not, don't worry about it for now.
Anton?
Yes.
I did try this, and the minute I put that I was a nonprofit because I'm a government, it said I am not eligible.
Was that you, Carrie?
Carrie.
Let me check on that. Let me make a note. Thanks for calling that to my attention. Let me share the other screen now where everything else lives. Okay, so if you clicked on this link, as I mentioned, that get to the system, you will get here. And as you've already signed up now, you've already been qualified in, as eligible. You get to this screen and it tells you the rural marketing grants. If you click on the guidelines, you'll see our guidelines are here. It's also posted on our website. So definitely take a look at that. As I mentioned, the changes. Once you've read through that, you can submit your application. And here, again, the guidelines pop up for reference. Sorry for if I make you a little dizzy as I scroll down. Get to the good stuff. So here, then you would start to fill out your application, your organization name, the organization director. That may not be the same person as the person submitting. So we have a separate section for someone else to submit. The reason why we need to have two is sometimes when we do have questions, it's usually not the person, the director may not be the right person to ask those questions. So we'd like to have a second person to be able to do that. So here again, in the submitter's info is adding that second person if it's different from the director. If you are the director and you're filling out the grants, you don't need to fill the second side out. Here's where we're going to ask for your corporate ID, your tax identification number, your nonprofit, if you're a nonprofit or a tribal organization, and the year you started. This was all in the past, in the old application. So these questions are not that new. And then your organization type, and many of these are drop downs, and you just click on them and try to make the application a little bit easier when it came to trying to fill in all these little pieces. So where you see there's some of these when you answer will have a drop down. Same with the territories here, you can easily do that. There is one for statewide as well. This is one of the things we're also requiring is your organization's mission or purpose. I know some of you, this was my old application, so let me just delete that. Some of you may be part of a city and you are maybe not the nonprofit, but you are part of the city and you have a division, for example. Tonopah was that. So that division that you work in is really something that you must have a mission and purpose around there, and we want you to fill that in as well. There is the same questions we've asked before in terms of the size of your organization budget and how much staff you have. Filling this in accurately will help us also calculate and figure out the sliding scale that we're trying to do for 2024. So be clear on that. Just some information on your address, your website, phone number. And then this is really to make sure that you've either attended this webinar today, so all of you can collect yes. If you're not doing this live, if you did it in person through one of our staff, or you're viewing this recording, then you can also select yes. We definitely need you to take a look at this because with all the many changes, we want to make sure you have it. Before I get into project info, were there any questions so far?
Yeah, Anton,
Heather,
this
you
is
raised your
Tom.
hand. Sorry.
Yes.
Anton, on your budget, is that just for the marketing budget, I'm assuming, not your overall budget? Because we have, we have convention centers that we pay for and other operations. Is that just the marketing budget or overall budget? Because, that's a different.
That's a good
budget.
question, Tom. That is marketing. We do want to, we want to know if, let me think, wait, because we're basically what we're trying to figure out is, can you afford to do much of what you have? Like, there are entities who are completely, like they have almost no money. It is, I'm going to say organization. And then
Okay,
we
the reason why I say that is because like our room tax is strictly for marketing and that's all we can use it for. Where our overall budget, you know, we're running the convention and conference center and paying salaries and other things come out of that. So it's not used for marketing purposes.
I think, Tom, you can you should list your organization budget, and you can make that note in your purpose and mission.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, Heather.
Thank you. So I had a question regarding the both the budget and the organization type. Is that we're part of a university, but we're submitting this on behalf of a science center. So do I put museum and put the museum's budget, even though it's the you know, the overall organization is a university? Or do I put university and then I'm requesting for the museum? And then same thing with the budget. Do I put the department budget or the full organization, which is, you know, of course, a university, millions, billions, I don't even know. But I have no control over any of that but part of the budget. So it would make a lot less sense to talk about that part of the budget.
I hear what you're saying. So we have for organization type, these are the types that we have designated. You can list in other and kind of explain how that whole ecosystem you're working within. And then for the budget, it is the budget, the marketing, the budget within your organization that you actually manage. So if the university has millions, but your department, so to say, has a certain amount of money, $1 million, and you're really applying for it, but you also you have the marketing side as well. In that, where you're applying for these grants, I would put that number in. So it doesn't have to be the entire the university, but it should be at least your division.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Sorry, there was another question I saw, another hand raised.
Yes, it was me.
Who is speaking?
Jenny Sarton at the Pahrump Valley Chamber of Commerce.
Oh, hi.
Hi. I just wanted to get some clarification. I posted the question earlier, and I want to make sure we're not misunderstanding. If we are hosting a regional event and we'll be working with another entity that reaches outside of our immediate communities, but are not recognized tourism agencies, are we still qualified for applying for these grants?
Yes, but they will have to work with you.
Well, the other agency is Mesquite, the Mesquite Chamber.
And you are with, remind me again, sorry.
Valley Chamber of Commerce.
Which chamber? I'm sorry.
Pahrump Valley.
Pahrump.
In Nye County.
So you're saying you want to work with the Mesquite Chamber?
Correct.
Yes, I mean, Mesquite is a bit of a challenge, as I mentioned earlier. They are very active. We know we have provided them with the chamber, Mesquite Chamber. We've provided them with grants in the past, and we did note on the last grant cycle for them that we were going to fund their grant. However, they needed to start working with the city, because if the city were to apply for a grant and for their visitor center, that would take precedence over the chamber. So however that chamber, the Mesquite Chamber, wants to work with any other entity that has a higher relevance in another town, or in this case in Mesquite, they should be working with them. So I guess you need to talk. Maybe you need to be a little bit more creative on that, but that is how we need to look at each destination. That's not in since she's not in your destination, I'm not sure how you want to word that, but it would be awarded to, if that was the case, if say you as a chamber applied, she as a chamber applied, and the Mesquite city applied. In Mesquite, the priority will be to the city. In Pahrump, it's going to be to you. So does that make sense?
But Nye County, I mean, Pahrump has its own tourism agency as well, but they would not be directly involved in this particular regional event.
then that would be the priority there. Again, if your tourism agency in the city applies for a grant and competes with you, we have to look at it as who is the authority in that town.
Okay.
I know we're already at time and we didn't get through the project. So if you want to hang on here, I'll keep going. So I can get you through kind of the application, because this is really the biggest part of it. But I appreciate all the questions. And like I said, I will put together an FAQ. So once you've filled out kind of all the information you need to kind of get your application started, you get into the project. And here's where it gets a little bit more granular. So what we need in the beginning is your summary of your grant request. This is the section that we will be literally cutting and pasting into a report for the TAC to review, as the Territory Advisory Committee, and the commission meeting, the information that we provide to them. So please make sure that you are succinct in the number of words, because we have a limit of 300 words, and make sure that you are editing for content and clarity, spelling and grammar, because that is what we will be using. But this is your summary. This is your opportunity to tell us what it is your grant's about, summarizing it, and giving us an overview of what your plan is. Include your goals and objectives. If you have the past results, as I mentioned earlier, that is something that we're going to look at. If it ties back to our mission, even better. So make sure you cover those as part of your overview if you have it. Then we get into the bulk of the application. So here we've broken up into these key sections. So paid advertising, public relations, travel trade, organizational assets, conferences, marketing research and planning. There's another, if we missed an area that we haven't highlighted here. So in paid advertising, this is all the ad placements that you'll be doing if you're applying for a grant, if you want TV, print, online, radio, out of home, all that, electronic direct mail. This is the button you check for that. You may also be doing public relations, and you can check that button. You can check as many as applies. And so think of it as you've got one applications, but you can put in the type of media you have all of here. If you have travel trade, you can also check that button. Organizational and travel trade, we're talking missions and trade shows, what you mentioned earlier, Earl. PR is really, if you have work with paid influencers, you want to join a media mission, the PR FAM, social media, that would be under PR. Organizational assets, these are the requests we see for, sometimes you're trying to build your image database, your videos, other content that you have, you're doing a website refresh. This is the button you would check. You have SEO, which is search engine optimization. You want to put that in, brochures, rack cards, anything you would do that supports your what you're trying to promote, that is different, is not paid advertising, because paid advertising is an agency to be able to put your money in there. If there are tourism related workshops and seminars that are educational in nature that help your community, that you can select the conferences. And then there's research, marketing, market research, and strategic planning as well. So when you select any one of these, what happens is you get a pop-up. It'll start to fill in all of these questions. So let's just go through paid advertising to get everyone through kind of how it looks. So if you chose paid advertising, you would get a list of all the types of media that we could think of. And if we didn't think of it, select other media. And here it is if you have, so if you decide you wanted to do broadcast TV and some streaming services and maybe an online ad and say radio or out of home, check those buttons and that will start to populate just below you. So we start with broadcast TV. And this, I think, Meg, is your question. If you had multiple media, but also multiple projects, you would then list them here, because in each one, so in broadcast TV, just to start with, you have who's your target audience. You would write that out. Give us why you chose broadcast TV, your rationale for the TV, but also the stations that you decided to go with. and why you pick those. You can then select your ad length. Many of these, as I said, are buttons that you can just check or fill in. So there's not a lot of writing except for this initial section on your target audience and kind of why you decided to go in this route. So if it was TV, we want to know how often you plan on running this per day or week or month. What's your call to action for this ad? This is a required field. If you got added value as part of your negotiation, you need to talk about that, list that yes or no. And then, and if you selected yes, for example, you get additional buttons, additional fields that you need to fill in. So then you would have to explain that earlier. But as you saw, if you selected no, you would not get that information. So much of this is kind of dependent on what how you answer and what the questions will pop up based on that answer. We want to know what your goals are as it relates to the metrics around broadcast TV in this example. So you can put in your estimated reach, and you can, this is again, you can either use the arrow buttons or you can put in numbers. Same with impressions. So for broadcast TV, you have the potential reach. That's what a reach is how far can you actually, the potential for this advertising. The impressions are really how many people will actually see it. So it's not always the same number. It could be different for a billboard, for example. So in the case of a billboard, it could be the same. So these are something, if you're doing media buys with an agency, or you purchase it by, they would be able to give this to you to fill that in. So for broadcast, and this answers your question, David, if your broadcast is different from your print, for example, you can then have individual start dates for each of those and end dates as well. Then you would add your total budget for what you're planning to spend on the broadcast TV and how much money you were asking for funding from Travel Nevada. And because I did streaming ads, now I get the similar kind of set of questions catered towards streaming here. But I'm gonna skip streaming real quick because that's not very different. Sorry. So if I did magazines, for example, I'd scroll, and this is one application. So you can continue to scroll down. You don't have to switch pages. We don't have a way to show you like you're 10% of the way or 50% of the way in completing it. It's just as many, whatever you've selected, you can, then you would get these questions. So here we've got magazines. What is your target audience for your magazine? What is the publications you decided to go with and rationale around that? Your insertion size, what's the length and width of your, so these are different questions specific to that media. We want to know, how big is your ad? How often is it going to run? What's the call to action? That's the same question you're going to see across all of these. If there was added value, you want to, again, if you select yes, it's going to ask you additional questions. Please explain further. How many more impressions did you have? And then what is your metrics? In this case, we're looking at circulation. So we want to know what's the total circulation for all the publications you're requesting, and then what's your estimated impression. Again, it may be different. Your magazine start date and end date, your budget for your magazines, and how much you are requesting from Travel Nevada. We selected display advertising. Again, you're going to see these similar questions. What the rationale and choice. In this case, we've identified some of the IAB standards for internet broadcasting. So if you're buying leaderboards and rectangles, you certainly want to select the ones that make the most sense here for you, depending on the ad you're creating. Where you're positioning, sometimes it is you buy the run of site, or it's called ROS, and that just happens to be wherever the ad runs within someone's website. Or maybe you decide you only bought the home page or whatever that is. You want to list that here. What is the call to action again? And then metrics here for internet ads. You're looking at unique visitors for the website that you selected. What's the monthly for that? What's estimated impressions? Estimated content of views. Again, so you may not have this, but maybe the website you're purchasing from could give you some idea for that. You fill that in. actions. Let me see we might need to remove this actions. I'm not sure why it's in there. The online display, start date and end date again. I see there's a typo, we'll fix that. The budget, again, very similar. And then you go into radio. So it really is, it depends on what you've selected and what will come up on here. We had over 15 pages of questions that we gave to Submittable to kind of work through to answer all of these, to make sure that whatever question we have, that we have additional questions to get specifics. I do want to tell you, I'm going to scroll really fast, so close your eyes if you get dizzy. At the bottom, here is where, so we didn't ask for quotes for every single media that you're submitting. So if you want to, because I know people buy in a media plan, which has all these breakouts, you can then submit your quotes here. And this is like in the past, you can upload here, and you'd upload it directly onto the site. And just make sure you have the quotes, because that is part of the guidelines in terms of providing those quotes, so that we understand kind of where it's coming from. There's some additional questions here. Again, these questions are the same as what was in the last platform. You know, have you applied for other funding from other entities in your area? And if so, what was the funding you had? Are you looking for a waiver? And then how many visitors do you expect to bring? None of this should be new to you if you applied before. This is what we've always asked for. The hotel room nights. And then how does this help improve the lives of Nevadans? That's really just going back to our mission. It's really about having a vibrant life for our Nevadans who live here. And then last but not least, this we received, you know, a number of requests. I think the last time was 3 times the amount of requests we got for the money we had. So this is your chance to beat your drum and tell us why your project should be funded before some others. And then at the bottom here, there is this, you can save your draft. You can save this at any time. You can always come back to it. The information will always be there. That is a feature that I'm not sure if it was in the last system, but you definitely can save this here. And when you're ready, you can submit. There is an opportunity also to share this. I'm trying to remember where it was in the application. You can share your application with others. I apologize because I'm not seeing it on this form, and I didn't pull up another form that would have that. But if you wanted to say you have a, you know, 2 people are working on the grant, and you wanted to be able to have someone take a look at it as a once over, or just add their pieces that you may not know, there is an ability to share. And I will confirm that, and I will include the FAQ where that lives. Because
I saw it up at the top. It said manage collaborators, right at the top of the questions, the very first question, the person's name.
Thank you for calling that, because it's like going so fast.
Right there.
Here we go. Yes, you can then add a collaborator for your application to help you fill this out, or like I said, if you want them to help review it. And then when you're ready, you know, you just invite them through here, and then you can submit at the bottom.
Is there
So
a limit, Anton, on the number of collaborators you can have?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Anton, just a quick question, just to like triple check. So when, say you had the display ads as an example, when you had total budget, can you clarify if that again for that total budget is of like the project that we're asking that the grant is involved for, or the total budget of, say, our whole display advertising budget for our marketing?
Yeah, so that's exactly it. So each of these, the paid advertising, will ask, you know, it'll say, so for display advertising, what's your total budget just for display? Because at the bottom, we will be able to export this and add that all up fairly easily. I also didn't see, as I was going through here, the priority question that we had. We have a question. So I'm going to ask if everyone, you can certainly start to
to log in and try to and set yourself up as the application, but don't fill out the application yet. Give us till Monday, because that is a question I wanted to make sure was at the bottom, so that you would then be able to say, you know, as you filled in all this information on the activities you want to do, then you would say, you know, paid advertising is your priority. Put that as number 1. And I believe there would be a drop down. I'll verify that, but there will be an opportunity for you to rank your priority list in how you want to push out your marketing. And then we would also be able to tally within, if you put in all your costs for each of those, you know, if it's display ads, for example, and you wanted to, we would then be able to see, and if that was all we could afford to fund, then that is the amount of money that we would look at in terms of funding.
Anton, this is Meg. I'm pretty sure I saw that question at the very bottom of your form there, and it just looked like a free form to fill out.
Yeah, I was hoping he would.
Yes, that one right there. Rank it.
Oh, he didn't. Okay. It is just, yeah. I thought he was going to do a rank with categories, but here, thank you, Meg. You can then rank what you want as your priority, and we could look at that as it relates to the funding if we cannot do the full grant.
Anton, I have a question for you. This is Mary. I'm in Mineral County at the museum, but I'm not representing the museum. I work here, and I'm in Walker Lake. We're new to promoting tourism with West Walker Lake Advisory Board. Is there anyone we could consult with that's got more knowledge than we have to help us choose what we might want to do to promote tourism in Walker Lake?
Absolutely. I will get to my next slide, which was that exactly. You beat me to it.
Oh, okay.
This is, oh, I should share this. Maybe that's why you're not seeing it. There were 2 other slides I wanted to get through too. Sorry, where is my share again? Can you see the deck again? Okay. So, Mary, if you have questions, we do have kind of I won't say it's generic, but we do have a rural grants email address, so that if you have any specific questions, you can email that address. That is visible for myself and Robert and Abby, who are on my team, who review that email address and can respond accordingly. Robert, you see at the bottom, Abby is actually covering Cowboy Country, Reno, Tahoe, Pony Express territories. Robert has Indian, Nevada, Silver Trails. Oh, and I apologize, I left off Las Vegas. Las Vegas as well. So he's covering the South. If you are in one of these territories, they will be your contact information. You can email them through this rural grants address, but I'm also going to tell you that we are going to be posting office hours. They will have their office hours, a link to how to sign up for office hours, so you can have that one-on-one time with them to walk you through whatever you need.
Oh, that's great. Now, are we with, I think we're with Silver Trails in Mineral County, aren't we? Or are we Pony Express? I'm not sure.
You're throwing me off because I don't have my map in front of me.
Hawthorne. We're Hawthorne.
Oh,
right?
you're Hawthorne, then you're Nevada Silver Trails.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Yes. Were there any questions for any of the application? I know there was a lot to go through and we're well over our time, but I wanted to kind of just give you a hint of what it looks like. I know in the past, some people have tried to copy all the questions and then try to do the questions, you know, on Word and then try to import it back in. really, this system will allow you to do all that. You can save it, you can keep your draft, and it's not until you submit it that it's actually done. And like I said, you have the ability to share. So there is, hopefully that makes it easier for everyone. The office hours will be posted on our website, the travelnevada.biz that I showed you earlier, in the rural marketing grant section. And we would, you can certainly follow up with Abby and Robert. I do want to also go back. Oh no, my slide that is gone. I had the timing. Did I do that earlier? No, I accidentally deleted a slide that tells you the timing. So basically you have now until October 14th, and I will put that back into this deck, and this deck will be reposted on the website as well. October 14th is the deadline. So you have about a little bit over 4 weeks to fill out the application. Since this is cycle 2, we figured a lot of people who applied in cycle 1 would probably reapplying if they didn't get it in cycle 2. So hopefully that it's really just more of working through the system to put that in there. But we will have the office hours during this time. So if you have any questions, and that is the timing then is by October 14th, when the applications are closed. I think we set it for midnight. You will then, it will go to an internal review, and that review will, we'll have like 2 weeks to review that. And then we have a meeting with the Territory Advisory Committee chairs on November 7th. And they will also help us review these applications. And we'll have, because we have the holidays in between, we had to kind of bump it around the schedule. But we will then, after that meeting, compile the recommendations and present it to the commission on December 8th. And after the commission meeting, if all has been approved, then we would, you'll be allowed to use the funding starting December 9th for the remaining of the fiscal year. I will add that slide back in. I accidentally deleted it. I'm sorry. The other thing I wanted to kind of just give you a quick update and take this opportunity to tell you about our industry development plan. You know, we have the rural marketing grants you see in the center here. We are also running another grant in conjunction with this. Many of you may have participated in our 3D program. We just had a whole road show, been on the road, kind of getting the message out. It is about destination development. This 3D project and the grants associated with that is replacing the projects related to tourism, which is what a grant we had in the like 3 years ago, I believe now. This is we have $2 million in funding for that. We can, I can certainly, in the website, there is a link for all the information on that and what that project is about and how to apply for those grants. Those grants are going to open, I think, today or tomorrow or Monday. As soon as Courtney gets back from Fallon. That was our last roadshow meeting. And then they will, so that's something that we're running in conjunction with the marketing grants. We're also going to launch an ambassador program, and this is really training for frontline staff. Our ambassador program is called Battle Born Insider, and you'll hear more about that as we start to develop that. We're working on the content now and hope to have that launched by the end of the year. And you'll be hearing from us a lot more at the beginning of the year and how we rolled that out. We're also looking at a territory strategy. We want to work with the territories and how we can better work with them in terms of not just marketing each of the territories, but also looking at how can we help them with, for example, new members and strategize around how they can work with us in the future. And then last but not least, we are also launching Destination Nevada Academy, which is where initials are DNA because it's in our DNA at the beginning of the year. And that is really a monthly, it's an extension of Rural Roundup, our annual rural conference where we try to provide speakers and help educate our partners on certain things that they may be interested in. We've extended kind of this kind of learning platform at Rural Roundup to be more of like once a month educational program. We have Courtney and I, Courtney Bloomer is our destination development manager, and she and I sat down, we came up with 24 different ideas for this. So that's already 2 years of content But if you have any information, if there's something you want to know about, if it's about how do I think we had things like how do I apply for 501(c)(3) or what is 3C versus 6C, things like that, or it could be specific to social media, and maybe it's, we can't cover social media in its entirety at Rural Roundup in a 1-hour session, so we could break that up into Facebook or Google ads or anything like that. Talking about we had a session on looking at a session on strategic planning. All of these, we will either bring in experts or have experts within our own team, or certainly within the industry, to come in and kind of talk about how to do these things. So that is something we're really excited for. We'll launch it in January, February timeframe, and you'll definitely be hearing more about it. But I just wanted to give you an idea of kind of all the things we're working around as it relates to industry development for Travel Nevada. So, wow, I'm almost went half an hour later, and I apologize. I knew there was going to be a lot of questions, but yeah, if there's anything else I can answer in the last 4 minutes to make it full an hour and a half, please feel free to raise your hand now. Yes, Dave.
And Todd, question on the prioritization. If you leave it as an open end, do you want us to prioritize the larger buckets like paid advertising, PR, on the higher level, or do we take it down another level within paid advertising? Like, say we want display as #1 priority within paid versus print. How granular do you want us to do that in that open form?
I think it's up to you, David, as a applicant. However you feel that you need to, whatever your priority, because you may have a lot of paid advertising, but maybe you want the TV to be more important than the print, then you should outline that there.
Perfect. Okay. And then question where you were talking about the actions, do you think what you're looking for there might be conversions that take place on our website? If we're trying to drive conversions, say to sign up for a newsletter or a hotel.
I have to go back to my notes. I had like I said, like 13 pages of notes. I would just better define what that was. I believe that might have been it. I just have to go back and think about.
And you maybe just put some context around that then.
I will.
Yeah. In the application. Okay.
Yeah, I apologize for the confusion. It was a lot of questions we were asking.
This is great. No, this is, I think, very thoughtful, well laid out. It's a lot of detail, but I think that helps everybody think through their projects, and it also helps you guys kind of roll all of this up as well to show the impact that the grants have, in our communities, but then for the whole state. So good job to you and the team.
Thank you. And as I said, if I could just ask everyone, if you could wait till Monday you can go in now and start to set up your account, but if you can wait till Monday to fill in the form, just in case we do want one final test, because we've been finding more things as we go through it. It's just small, minor stuff, but what happens is if we make the change and you've already started your application, it won't save it. So give us the rest of this day, and over the weekend, I think our team will be working on any last minute fixes. By Monday morning, first thing, you will be able to get in there and start your application.
Very good.
Okay. Heather, yes, you can start filling in your just to set up your account. Yeah, you might just need to redo your basics. I apologize, we couldn't get that live.
No worries. I just while we were sitting here, I was just filling in the basics. I'll do it again, no problem.
Yeah, I just said I just found that out as I was testing it as well, that you couldn't, if we change even to just like a comment, it doesn't allow you to save. It tells you have to start all over. So that's not really what we want. We don't want to waste anyone's time having to redo it if we can just fix these last minute things. That last section, it is open-ended. If there's anything else you also want to include, I may add one more section that just says, if we've missed something that you wanted to say, put your comments there, just so that we make sure we capture everything that you want to have.
Anton, when this is all done, will you be able to print it out completely?
I believe so, because I do know that we can actually print each application. I will double check that, Carrie, and I will find out where that button is so that you can print it, because I know that we can print them for the territory chairs, for example, when we do the review, so they will be able to see it.
Thanks.
Heather,
Sorry, one more question was, and sorry if you already said this and I missed it. Was there a way to download all the questions so that you could do it in a Word document and then upload it?
yeah, I mean, I recognize that people still do want to do that. I think you just, if you want to capture all the questions as much as you can, you would select all of them and then print it. You would just basically cut and paste it. But there are questions, if you don't answer, like, for example, that one I showed you, if you don't answer yes, it won't give you those additional questions. That's the only challenge. So it's, I mean, the system is made so that you should be able to do in there and you can save as many times as you want. Yeah.
Anton, it's Earl. One last question. I've just been observing everything and what I've heard. Is it fair to say that we really need to think about, how do I say this? Thinking small when it comes to events, projects versus big $50,000, $60,000 projects. Obviously, there's only so much money to go around. And I know in the past, there's been some thinking that says, oh, think big because they'll cut back and all that. But the message I'm clearly hearing is more about quality and smallness versus quantity and dollars. Am I on track there?
Well, I definitely wouldn't say that we are limiting anyone to any dollar amount. We're going to fund the projects that are the most compelling, that meet all of our criteria, and that spread the you know, the exposure across multiple jurisdictions. There is no cap to how much we will award. We do want to be as equitable as possible. Then that's why we ask a lot of these questions. If you're an entity that has a lot of funding and can, you know, when we asked that question the last time on the last grant, I have to tell you that there were 2 destinations came to us, said, you know what, we do have a lot of money. We can afford to do this on ourselves, by ourselves. We want to make sure that the rest of the community has that funding. And I really appreciate that. I think that was something I think that, you know, was the key learning for us. I was surprised too. And that's really what we want to do, is have equity across the state. So those are part of our consideration sets. And also little guys, we really want to try to figure out how we can get more product out there. And if that is, you know, if they're just a small entity, they can't meet these grant requirements as relates to matching. We're trying to figure out how we can help the little guys as well. So there is no cap. We will evaluate it based on what the quality of your application is.
Thank you.
I see a question from Carolyn about who do I contact at Nevada Magazine. That is Carrie. I will, if you can, Carolyn, send me your email address. I will forward that to Carrie so she can reach out to you regarding Nevada Magazine. I believe her contact is also in the media kit that is on our website as well. All right. Well, thank you everyone for your time. I know most people had to drop off, but I appreciate the time. I apologize, it went a lot longer. I will have FAQs on the website. This might even be in 2 parts now that this I somehow fell off and got re-recorded. So I will have that all on the website for you. And yeah, I hope this was helpful for everyone, and we look forward to seeing your applications and hearing from you if you have any questions otherwise.
Hey, Anton, I just wanted to, this is Tom, just wanted to give you a shout out, Travel Nevada, and all your hard work that you put into this.
Yeah.
It looks like it's been quite the process, and I think moving forward, I think this will be a great opportunity for Travel Nevada and other partners to really like the co-op opportunities and different things like that. So I just wanted to say kudos to you and your team. I think it was rolled out very nicely.
Thanks, Tom. As you probably heard from me in the past sessions, you know how much I hated the last platform. I was really motivated to get a better, smarter platform, and I'm hoping that Submittable is the one. We did find out that when it comes to reimbursing, we do have a little bit of a kink there because you can't actually reimburse through the system. We have to create a whole nother file. We'll let you know when that time comes, but it's not perfect, but I think we're definitely getting there. And thank you for the compliments.
I have to tell you, Anton, to follow up with what he said, I have to tell you, it's a real pleasure to have representation right here in our community that we can turn to, because I know your schedule is beyond busy, so he's incredible to work with, and it's just making life easier.
Great, great. All right, well, I'm going to stop recording.